My older sister just disappeared from the toilet. Hang on, I have no idea what's going on. On July 31st, 2012, at 5:38 PM, a Knee Channel user created a thread stating that her older sister had gone missing from the toilet. She went on to explain that the two of them lived together in Saitama. The poster was a student, while her sister had a part-time job. On this particular day, her sister didn't have any work, so she was at home. The poster was cooking dinner around 4:30, and her sister complained that her stomach was upset, so she went to the toilet. By 5 PM, dinner was ready, but her sister was still nowhere to be seen. She knocked on the door, but there was no response. Thinking that maybe her sister passed out from heat exhaustion or something, she forced herself in. But nobody was there. She checked all over the house, but couldn't find her sister anywhere. She had apparently disappeared into thin air. Her shoes were still by the front door, and she would have had to have passed by the poster as she was cooking dinner anyway, so she didn't go outside. She also claimed the windows in the house were all old and made loud noises when opened, which she didn't hear. So, where on earth had her sister gone? Other users in the thread initially joked that she must have fallen down the toilet, or maybe her sister was a figment of her imagination all along. The poster dutifully replied that a person being flushed down the toilet would be far too big and get stuck, but also claimed that she heard her sister sit down at the very least. After that, nothing. The toilet lid was up, but she didn't hear the paper being used, nor was the toilet flushed. If true, then her sister had sat down on the toilet and then vanished. Numerous users in the thread pointed out that it sounded suspiciously like the Time Spaceman, a famous creepypasta series in which people all over Japan found themselves in basically an alternate, empty dimension, watched over by an old guy called the Time Spaceman. He helped, or rather forced, people back into the right place when they accidentally slipped out of time or space somehow. The younger sister tried calling her older sister's phone, but it had been left in her room. Her sister was also in her pajamas at the time, seeing as they were lazing around at home. So she thought it unlikely she would go outside dressed like that as well. The suggestions piled up. Maybe she was stuck to the roof. Maybe her sister never existed at all. Maybe it was magic. Maybe she climbed onto the roof outside. Maybe she was hiding under the bed with a sickle. And naturally, maybe she was spirited away. While not extremely common, it's also not rare for a person who has supposedly gone missing in a Knee Channel story to be revealed in the end to have never existed at all. The poster insisted this wasn't the case here, and her parents still remembered they had 2 daughters, not 1. She even called them to tell them her sister had disappeared from the house, but they apparently didn't believe her and told her to look harder. Others suggested that maybe it was actually the poster who had disappeared, not the other way around. While that would be a neat, if unoriginal twist to the story, the user had already spoken to her parents, so that seemed unlikely. But what could explain her sister going missing? Had she really warped somewhere, or been sucked into another dimension, as other users suspected? How could this strange event possibly be explained? The poster continued to search her house in real time, and at 6:07 PM, revealed she wasn't anywhere in the house. She even checked the closets and under the blankets. She was nowhere. Next, she was going to check outside. Others started to joke that the poster had actually taken out her older sister herself, or that maybe she was stuffed in the toilet pipe, like in the bizarre toilet death case. I'll leave a link if you haven't watched that video yet, and you really should. The poster returned at 6:30 and revealed she couldn't find her sister. She was barefoot and in her pajamas, so she didn't bother to check any shops, thinking it unlikely she'd go in any. But after riding around for 20 minutes, she still saw no sign of her, and thus called her parents again. After eating dinner and mentioning that she was going to look outside yet again, the poster disappeared for a while. She didn't return until almost 9 p.m, this time revealing that her sister was still missing, but she had gone to the police. They had apparently told her to return home and wait, while they sent out search teams. By this point, others in the thread were wondering if the older sister hadn't deliberately run away for some reason. That would explain why she left her shoes, why she escaped in her pajamas, and why the sister couldn't find her anywhere. Maybe she didn't want to be found. 15 minutes later, the poster said she was going to check outside yet again, this time with her parents. She didn't return until 11:13 p.m, 2 hours later. And this time, it was good news. Mostly. To sum things up, we found her. We found her sitting on a bench in the park that I'd checked several times. She was there in her pajamas and barefoot, like I thought. She looked at us with a straight face and was like, "I've been watching you all looking for me all this time." This, of course, just made everyone even more confused. How did the younger sister miss her if she searched that area several times? How did the older sister get there in the first place? What did she mean by, "I've been watching you all looking for me all this time"? Did she really slip out without her sister noticing, and then she just happened to not notice her during her search? Turned out it was a little stranger than that. After entering the toilet, she apparently sat down, but then next thing she knew, she was standing in another room, and I was there. But apparently I couldn't see her, and then I walked off somewhere. She followed me for a bit, but it seemed no one could see her, and then she ended up at the park. There she apparently sat spaced out on a bench until Mum found her. So, if we're to believe the younger sister's story, then her older sister was there all along, but nobody could see her. She had, it seemed, found herself just outside but still adjacent to our own reality. Maybe the suggestions of the time-space man weren't too far off the mark. If you believe her story, of course. The poster shared all of this information while she was at home alone. Her sister apologized to her parents for her disappearance, and then they all told the younger sister to go back first. She figured her older sister was dealing with the police, seeing as search teams had been sent out to find her. Shortly after midnight, she announced that she was exhausted, and so was going to bed. The thread then petered out not long after. The mystery of her sister's disappearance was apparently solved, but naturally, many users accused her story of being fake. If her sister really did disappear, but was actually by her side all that time, then didn't that suggest something was actually wrong with the younger sister, and not the older? In the end, it was her mother who found her, on a bench that the younger girl had checked several times by her own admission. But then, how could that explain her older sister's dazed state and no memory of how she got out of the toilet? Of course, the simplest answer is usually the correct one. It's likely the whole thread was fake, like many suspected. Could the poster have been telling the truth? At least, from her point of view? Sure, stranger things have happened, but that would also indicate something far more terrifying on her end. Because how do you suddenly stop seeing your sister? There were suggestions in the thread for the poster to go and see a doctor. Who knows? But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.